Hello, this video is for those of you who had a lesson on Tuesday but were unable to actually receive your lesson because of the ARC ceremony. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through some of the basics of the guitar. A lot of you have played guitar already, or you play another guitar family instrument like the ukulele or the banjo. So you're actually going to be really familiar with a lot of these concepts, but I'm just going to cover the basics anyway. We'll of course still go over this together, but we can't begin the semester a week behind. So it's really important that when you have your assessment next week, we actually play through the week 2 stuff. Now, for those of you who are performing on Tuesday or have a class on Tuesday, of course, I'll keep in mind that you haven't actually had a lesson yet, and we'll work around that. But still, I don't want you to be starting fresh on Tuesday. So the first thing we're going to do is just talk through the parts of the guitar. So this is an acoustic guitar, but generally the parts are the same on an acoustic or an electric. This large resonating chamber right here is called the body. This long skinny part is called the neck, and body, neck, what's on top of the neck? The head. So this, of course, is the head or the headstock. You have your 6 strings. The lowest one is going to be closest to you when you're looking down on the guitar. And by the way, there are a few different ways you can hold the guitar. The traditional way that they play in a lot of popular styles, country rock, things like that, when you're sitting, is to have the guitar on the right thigh, but we'll actually play with the guitar on the left thigh, and you have the footstool under your left foot. Now, for the purposes of this video, so that you can see everything well, I will keep the guitar on my right thigh, but that's not how we'll do it in the lessons. So anyway, your strings, in ascending order by pitch. These are your tuning heads. This is the nut. These pieces of metal that are hammered into the neck, these are your frets or fretboard markers, and then the dots are called inlays. So this is an inlay on the 3rd fret. Now, when you're counting the frets, you start at the nut, so this is the 1st fret, the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret. But when you're placing your fingers, if you're told, for example, put your finger on the 3rd fret of the skinniest string, you don't actually put your finger covering the piece of metal, you put your finger halfway behind it right there. Now, depending on the style of music you're playing, you're going to get different answers for where you should put your finger. Some people do say put it on top, some people say directly behind. Based on the genres of music that we're doing, we're going to go for right in the middle. Even though this whole piece is called the neck, the top part where your fingers touch has 2 names, either the fingerboard or the fretboard. This is the sound hole, and that's how an acoustic guitar makes noise. The strings vibrate, the sound is amplified in this resonating chamber that is the body. On an electric guitar, there's a pickup. The pickup is made of magnets and a coil, and the strings vibrating disturb an electromagnetic field that naturally occurs around the magnets with the coil, and those electromagnetic disruptions are converted from voltage into sound, and that's how an electric guitar works. It's a very similar process. It's just in this guitar it's made loud naturally. On an electric guitar it's of course made loud electronically. This is your pick guard. The only purpose this has is if you look at, for example, Willie Nelson, his guitar's name is Trigger. He's named it. So if you Google Willie Nelson Trigger, you'll see his guitar, and he's played it for so many years that the pick or his fingernails have actually worn a hole through the guitar. So this hard plastic is much sturdier than the wood is. So by putting this here, you're just protecting the body of the guitar. This is called the bridge, and on the bridge you have a few other components. These are called the string pins, and this is called the saddle. This is where the strings rest. So technically, there are 2 points of contact for the strings. The saddle, which is part of the bridge on the bottom, and the nut, which is part of it connects the headstock to the neck up top. And the way you change the pitch of the guitar is you shorten that length. As I move higher up the neck, when I say higher referring to pitch, even though I'm literally going physically down, as I move higher up the neck, the pitch raises. And then you have strap buttons, probably. So on mine I have one down here, and on this guitar I actually don't have one on top. Johnny Cash usually played guitars where he didn't have a button there, so in that case you usually just take a piece of string and tie it there. The weight is off, the balance is off when you do it that way. So on the guitars I've owned that don't have that a second strap button here, I always just install one myself. You don't have to, although if you want to, I'll show you how to do it. But so if you're standing, you would of course put the strap here where the neck meets the body and down here at the bottom of the body. Or if you don't have that strap button like I don't on this guitar, you would tie it here. Okay, so now let's talk about this book a little bit. So again, this is an older cover. The cover that you might use looks very similar. Just rather than having the black background, it would have the white background, but the font, the acoustic guitar, the yellow theme, all of that will be the same. On page 6, the pages may be off by 1 or 2 pages, but the order is the same. So as long as we start in the same place, we'll be fine. And I have ordered the updated version, so I will be giving you the appropriate page numbers once that other new edition arrives. But for me on page 6, I have a part where it labels the parts of the guitar, shows you how to hold it. Pick. We're going to be playing with a pick in your lessons, and you'll be playing with your fingers on Mondays. But the way you're going to hold this is there is a long pointed part on the pick. So you want to take your index finger and your thumb on your right hand and kind of cross them over each other like that. And you're going to pinch the pick with your fingers. And the pointy part of the pick should roughly be facing the same direction as your index finger. Maybe not exactly, but roughly. And then that pointed part, that's where you make contact with the strings. And when you're using the pick, you're not going to use a whole lot of pressure, actually. You're going to have a lot of give. I should be able to pull the pick out of your hand from you. You shouldn't have so much pressure that it's actually stuck there. It's just enough pressure where it doesn't fall out, but no more pressure than that. So that when you strum, your sound is roughly like that. And the first few pages talk about what the hands do. So now let's talk about where your fingers will go. So we will get into some string letter names, but at first we're just going to use string numbers. So the skinniest string is the first string. The thickest one is the 6th string. So if someone said play the strings in this order, 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6. And as I'm playing the strings, I'm just using a little bit of the pick to strike the strings, whether I play one at a time or all together. Now for the left hand. You don't want your finger totally flat, so if I say that this angle of the pick represents the guitar string, you don't want your finger totally flat like that. So on some chords you will, but generally you don't. But you also usually don't have it going straight down either. It's most commonly going to be at this kind of 45-degree angle. So if I wanted to play the first fret of the first string, again, I'm going to take my index finger. This is the first finger, by the way. For those of you who play piano, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But on guitar, we only use these 4, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. On the very, very, very rare occasions that you do use your thumb, it'll be written as a capital T, but it probably won't happen for any of you, at least not this first semester. So anyway, playing the first fret of the first string with the first finger. I'm going to take my index finger, put it there. I have my thumb on the back of the neck, and I'm applying pressure with both my index finger and my thumb from each side of the guitar neck. Then once my finger's there, I'm going to strum it. If I get kind of a metallic-y sound like that, it's for one of 3 reasons. I'm either not pressing hard enough, that's probably what it is. I'm too close to the fretboard, excuse me, too close to the fret. As I move away, it becomes a clear ringing sound. Or sometimes another finger is getting in the way. So this seems kind of silly, but my index finger was actually fine, but my ring finger was touching the string. So if ever you get a bad sound, it's going to be one of those 3 problems. Your first couple days of playing the guitar, it's probably just that you need to apply a little bit more pressure to the string. So then if I want to play the 3rd fret, I'm going to take my 3rd finger now. And it's not always going to match up that your finger number and your fret number are the same, but it will match up for the first couple weeks. So 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, same thing. I'm just going to apply some pressure with my thumb, pinch my thumb and my ring finger together on either side of the neck, so just try that, going up and down the neck with those 4 notes a little bit. And I'm already going to disagree with the book. On my page 9. It says, has a section on placing a finger on the string. Again, for the specific genres that we're going to play, which in the lessons will lean more toward popular styles, jazz, rock, contemporary worship, that's the technique that we're going for, not what they list in here. So this says put your finger right by the fret. Do not do that. Put your finger right in the middle. The string names of the guitar are E, A, D, G, B, and high E again. You have 2 E's on a guitar. One mnemonic device is Eddie ate dynamite, good by Eddie. If you can remember that, you'll remember the string letter names. Now, what's interesting about the guitar is when you're reciting the strings by number, you would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going from the highest pitch to the lowest pitch. But when you're reciting the strings by letter name, you would say E, A, D, G, B, E, from the lowest pitch to the highest pitch. I just want to take this quick moment to say I know I'm speaking very fast, and that's because I know you can go back and rewatch this a few times. But also, don't feel like you have to remember this all right away. Again, this is just an effort so that you're not coming in totally cold week 2. For those of you who it just so happened that Tuesday was this arc ceremony. Page 11 just explains notes, whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes. You should know all that from your either musicianship skills or music theory class. The actual songs in my book start on page 12. Yours might be a little bit different, but at the very top of the page in bold writing it says the first string E. And it's actually good that I'm getting a new copy of this book. I've been using this one for many years and it's falling apart, so it'll be good to have a new one. But yeah, first string E. So you're going to start with 3 notes, and it shows you that E is the open E string. So when we say open E, that means you're plucking the high E string without using any fingers from your left hand. You're just letting the string ring on its own. The next note is F. And for F, it shows you that you have your first finger on the first fret. So that's the F at the top of the treble clef line. Any song you play in your whole life, any genre, this will always be F. Now, brief tangent, there are other places to play F, but you don't need to. You can always default it to this first fret F. And the third note they give you is G at the 3rd fret. Now, the reason that the open string E and the F are right next to each other, but the F and G have a space in between, is because just like on a piano, E and F are right next to each other, but F and G have a black key in the middle. They have F sharp. So this note here technically is F sharp or G flat. We're not going to get into that for quite a while in the book, but because you're music majors and you're going to be exposed to these ideas, I just wanted to point that out. And actually, now that I think about it, some of you are freshmen and you haven't taken musicianship skills or music theory yet. So you actually probably don't know what quarter notes are or half notes are. For those of you who are in that situation, we will definitely talk about that together, or I'll make a separate video at some point explaining those ideas. But anyway, looking at this first example on, again, for me, what is page 12, it starts off with, let me just hold this up for you. Right here, in that first quarter note, it has the letter E. What that means is anytime you see this note here, every time it repeats, you're going to play an E. So you're going to pluck it a total of 8 times. But then it switches to F, where the very top line is going through the note. So whenever you see F, you're going to pluck with your first finger on the first fret. So it's going to be 8 Fs. Then you get down here, and you get 8 Gs, and finally E, E, F, F, G, G, E. So let me play for you what that will sound like. Oh, there are 2 measures of it. Say it again. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it says hold, so you'll let it ring. One of the most challenging first steps when you're playing the guitar is synchronizing the left hand and the right hand, so that when you change between notes, you're doing it at the same time with both the left and the right. As you play through it, that'll become easier and easier. To play the next song, it's the same thing. You have E, F, and G, and for the first few pages, you actually, for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, for the first 4 pages, you only have those notes. So I would just play through it. This is the song that's titled Playing with E, F, G. I'm going to play a little bit faster just to get through this. You don't have to play it this fast. And then you can get through. So with that knowledge, you should be able to play through all of these notes. Through all of these examples. More, still more, and no more. Now finally get to page 15 and you'll have an introduction to notes. To rhythmic values on notes. Now everything up before that was quarter notes. So if you're new to reading music, completely new, all of these notes up to this point, just play them even. The speed is irrelevant. Any speed you want is fine as long as it's an even, steady beat that you have. And then when we get to page 15, that's when we'll start to talk about different rhythms. So the quarter note, the black circle with the line, is going to be 1 beat. So if this is the tempo, you'll play 1 note for each of those. The white circle with the line is a half note, which means 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2. The dotted half note is 3, and the whole note is 4. So this is me tapping my foot. Now I'm going to play quarter notes. These are the black ones. Now I'm going to switch to half notes. Dotted half notes. Now I'm going to switch to whole notes, 4 counts. Now on this example here, in the middle of page 15, or in the middle of the page that says sounding off, how to count time, you'll see 4 quarter notes, 4 black circled notes, followed by 1 half note, and then 2 quarter notes, and then a whole note. So that means each of those quarter notes will be 1 beat, so 4 notes that are 1 beat, followed by a half note, 1 note that is 2 beats, and then 2 quarter notes again, and then a whole note. Another way to think about that would be 4 short notes, 1 medium note, 2 short notes, and 1 long note. And you haven't learned these notes yet, so you can't quite play along. You will soon, but let me just demonstrate what this would sound like so you can understand the rhythm of it. Now on the one below it, 3 quarter notes, a half note, a quarter note, and then a dotted half note. So 3 short notes, a medium note, a short note, and then a long-ish note. And we're just going to go a little bit further on this one. On page 16, or my page 16, you get the start of basically a new chapter, which is called the second string B. So now we're going to be working with the second string, or the B string, which is that one. And it's going to be the same way. Each of these chapters is going to open up by giving you 2 or 3 new notes, and you will be told where your finger goes. You'll have this is called a chord box diagram, this matrix here. This. And that shows you where to put where to place your finger. When you see a chord box diagram that's blank, but there's a circle above one of the notes, as is the example here, that just means you play the string open. So B sounds like this. C is here, the first fret, and D is the third fret. So it just so happens that the first 2 strings use the same frets. Open 1, 2, open 1, 2. It's not always going to be the case. It's a coincidence, but it does make it helpful as you're getting through these first few chapters. So now I'm just going to look at this first example here. You have 4 Bs, 4 Cs, 4 Ds, 4 Bs again. Now it switches. Instead of sets of 4, it's sets of 2. B, B, C, C, D, D, C, C, B, B, C, D, C, D, B, B. I'm going to play that for you now. With that information, you should be able to go on and play the next two songs, Two String Rock and Merry-Go-Round. And then finally, Beautiful Brown Eyes, you get a song example with different rhythms. You have quarter notes, which are one beat, dotted half notes, which are three, and you even have some half notes in this one, which are two. So I'm going to play that one for you, Beautiful Brown Eyes, and I think that'll be it for today. So here's Beautiful Brown Eyes. I'm going to count to three just to set myself up, and if you want to, you can rewind this and play along. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 up to G using a note from the previous one. 1, 2. Actually, one last thing I do want to point out. I'm going back one page to Two String Rock now. Two String Rock does combine the three notes from the chapter on the B string with the three notes from the first chapter on the E string. And that's going to be a theme that you'll see that this book is cumulative. Every chapter you add new notes, and then you add new notes as well as including the old notes. Now, let me show you the notes that you're going to learn in this book, this entire book, because you do not go all the way through. And go all the way up to that one. I'm pretty sure those are the only notes that you learn. And actually, just one last example that I'll play for you, just so you can have an idea of where you'll get to in this book. Approximately, actually, before the midterm, this is going to be a couple weeks in. For me, this is page 54 on the newer edition. It may be off by a page or two, but it's definitely in there. You get Over the Rainbow. So this is what you'll be playing in a few weeks, reading the actual music. And then a chord. And it continues on. So hopefully this was helpful. It's just, again, so that you don't fall too far behind. But if you're new to the guitar, or if you're just new to reading music, if any of this seems unfamiliar to you, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed or like you're going to fall behind. We will absolutely get you caught up to speed together. This is just to make it so that we don't use as much of our lesson time to do that, and you can do some of this on your own. But any of these concepts that you're unsure about, mark the page, put a note in your phone, whatever you need to do, bring them up to me, and we'll talk through all of them, and we'll get you to the point where you do feel comfortable with all of this. All right, well, good luck, and if you have any questions, please feel free to send those to me.